Hello everyone, this is Shinmi from Make Auto Clinic. Welcome to our YouTube channel Autograph India. Today we are going to share some information on how to brake bleed or how to maintain your disc brake unit, whether it is rear or the front. We have chosen motorcycle from Royal Enfield. This is 350cc Classic. We are going to drain the brake fluid and we are also going to do the caliper greasing. This generally you require every time whenever you service the motorcycle. So approximately we can say 4 times in a year. So approximately every after 3000 km you should service your front disc or the rear disc. In the servicing you must replace the brake fluid. You must do the caliper greasing. Why do we need to replace the brake fluid? So the brake fluid is basically hygroscopic. In some of my videos you must have seen the characteristic of the brake fluid. The basic problem with the brake fluid is this is water soluble. Now when we apply the brake, the heat get generated by the caliper because of the friction, or not exactly by the caliper but because of the friction in between disc or the rotor and in between the brake pads. So the heat gets absorbed by the caliper, which transfers to the brake fluid. The brake fluid gets heated up. This is a reservoir basically, which is what we call as a master cylinder. The reservoir has got some upper area which is empty. So the empty area is basically filled up with the air. The air gets heated up because of the hot brake fluid. Once the air gets heated up, it becomes steam, and then later it converts into water, which mixes with the brake fluid, which damages the master cylinder as well as caliper, because the master cylinder and the caliper is made up of alloy. So the alloy gets come in contact with the brake fluid, which shows the unwanted debris inside the caliper. The conversion of the brake fluid is kind of a crystal or the paste. So it is must to replace the brake fluid every time. Here, maximum time I have seen with the technicians or with the user that they generally try to avoid the money. It is not a money related, but it is a matter of spare related. Just in case if you are on the road and if anything happens to the master cylinder, that means you are absolutely dead on the road. It is just because that you have not maintained. Just to save some few bucks, don't try to play around with your own life or with others as well. So replacement of brake fluid is always advisable in the disc brake maintenance. The disc brake has got, this is the caliper, this is the master cylinder, this is the disc hose, and this is the caliper. This is floating caliper. This is floating two-pot caliper. Two-pot in the sense there are two pistons inside the caliper. The floating in the sense the caliper basically floats on and it's keep on moving left and right side. So the greasing you need, because the floating points are basically made up of MS. So that means you will be requiring greasing. The caliper, the master cylinder has got one level window, as you can see in the video. Please show them everyone. This is the window. In the video, in the glass, you can see level, brake fluid level. But the brake fluid level is given for what? If the level is going down, that means your brake pads are getting worn out. In general maintenance, if the level is down, that doesn't mean that you should do refilling of the brake fluid in the master cylinder. It is necessary to check whether the brake pads are absolutely gone, or say all a little bit worn out or something, or need replacement or something. You need to check the brake pads. The level is given for the brake pads, not for the refilling of the brake. Generally, people say that nothing happens to the brake fluid. Lot of things are there which happens with the brake fluid. You must check the brake fluid quality as well with the help of brake fluid tester, which we have already shown in our video. Now, since this vehicle is came for the maintenance purpose, so we are by default we are going to change the brake fluid as well as we are going to do the caliper greasing. Now, Amol is going to help me out in this maintenance schedule. So we are going to remove at first place brake fluid. We are going to drain the brake fluid from the master cylinder to the caliper. The caliper has got a boot and the nipple. The nipple is given for the bleeding purpose. This is the nipple. Remove the boot from the nipple, keep it aside, and then just use the brake fluid extractor. Now this is extractor which helps a lot in this process, because if it spills on the color, the brake fluid contains acid. If the brake fluid spills on the color will get damaged. Now, just in case if the brake fluid spills on the color, it's best to use water to wipe out the brake fluid from the color side. Now, for example, there is a drop. The pipe popped up and there is a drop on the color. So, I'm just using normal plain water. After cleaning, before draining the master cylinder, keep the resin on the fuel tank. Otherwise, the color will get damaged. So, now I'm going to drain the brake fluid from the master cylinder. You will be requiring Phillips head screwdriver to remove the cover of the master cylinder. Generally, mechanics says that just in case if it gets damaged, and they says that did you wash your vehicle a lot? How this water went inside. See, water will never get inside because of the boot. It's a completely sealed material, so water will never enter. Now, as you can see, this master cylinder is getting drained. Now I'm going to use my tool. This is basically sucking all the brake fluid from the master cylinder. Remember one thing, this fluid is basically brake fluid, not brake oil. Both the terms are totally different. This is basically coming under fluid category. Any oil is also coming under fluid category. That doesn't mean that this is oil, this is not oil. I have seen many people by mistake pouring engine oil into the caliper or the master cylinder. So be careful with it. You have to use either .3, .4, .5.1 or .5 or .7. .7 or .5.1 and 5 is not available in India, but maximum time you will get 3 or 4. 5.1 is the best for racing purpose, and so the 7. 7 is hardly to get in India. 5.1 is possible. 5.1 can be mixed with 3 or 4, with 5 as well, but 3 cannot be mixed with 4, 4 cannot be mixed with 3. So both the oils, both the brake fluids are totally different. So you have to basically understood brake fluid first of all should not get mixed with any other fluid like 3 plus 4 or 4 plus 5. 5.1 can be mixed with 3 or 4. but 5.1 is absolutely not necessary is available in India. 3 and 4 is absolutely available. There are so many companies in the market which are providing 3 or 4. So we are going to use Bosch dot 4 for this vehicle. Car or any automotive product which are based on hydraulic brakes, these vehicles are using 3 or 4. So I'm going to use 4, which is transparent in color or maybe yellowish, pale yellow. So I'm going to use this right now. This is drained. This is not fully drained right now. Due to the master cylinder construction, this is not fully drained. So I'm going to remove this brake fluid. It's not coming out. That means I'm going to use some cloth. I'm going to keep it on the top. Now as you can see, brake fluid is completely removed from the master cylinder. If you are replacing the brake pads, then also the procedure is that first drain the master cylinder and then replace the brake pads. Even if you are not replacing the brake pads, then also first drain the brake fluid from the master cylinder, then work on the caliper, do the greasing, and then again after assembling the caliper on the vehicle, then refill the master cylinder. Now we are going to remove the caliper. We are going to do some regular maintenance of caliper. I am going to use 13 long body socket, 13 mm long body socket to remove the caliper from the spoke assembly. This is new type of caliper which Royal Enfield is using. Earlier the caliper was different. It used to come from another manufacturer. Since the caliper is out now, we have to remove this pads. Now there is a clip. Don't forget there are hardly some spares in the caliper. So this is the clip basically which is holding the pin. I'm going to remove this. Now the clip is or the pin is inside the caliper body, so you will have to remove this by using one pointed sharp tool or something which I have made just out of one old screwdriver which was damaged anyways. So I'm going to use it to remove the pin. Pin is out. Press those pads little bit because it has got one retainer spring inside. Press it so the pin should come out easily. Remove the pads. Then remove the caliper foundation. Now this is jammed almost, since it was greased 3000 kilometers already before. So we need to do this exercise once again. I am going to use blow to remove the excessive grease from the even foundation holes. Now with the rag, just clean the foundation point. Now these are clean points. Clean the caliper as well. Check the spring. The spring has to be fitted in this slot, not in this slot, but in this slot, neither in the middle of both the slots. So the spring is given to retain the caliper, to retain the pads. Check for any damages. This is made up of steel. Just blow the carbon deposition which is there accumulated on the caliper surface. Put the spring back. Just in case if this unit is greasy or something, or if it is oily, if you feel the caliper is greasy or something because of dust or oil or whatever the thing is there on the surface, then you can use this Wood Company brake cleaner. This cleans everything, dust as well as carbon deposition as well as oil. You know, degrease is kind of a chemical what they have made. This is imported one again. It drains all the carbon basically from the caliper. These pads now you need to scratch. You can use either hard surface or the emery paper which is very rough in the surface, or directly you can use grinder. I prefer to use grinder since I am in the workshop and I know how to do this job. If you don't have, or if you are not accessible to the grinder, then you can use this emery paper which is rough in the surface. You can just have to scratch it. After scratching, just use the air blower and then clean the surface, and then again use the chemical. Now I am going to use my grinder for cleaning this surface. The grinder wheel is very soft right now, so I don't need to worry. I'm just going to grind the surface. Don't apply too much force. I just want to clean up the surface, but parallel. You can see the difference between both the pads. Now this is clean and this is, I just have to work on this pad only. Okay, both the pads are clear now. Switch off the grinder. Now just use air pressure and then now you can see the surface looks brand new. Now you can place those pads in the caliper, but before that don't forget there are two greasing points. One point is this one, another point is this one. So apply some grease in that. The caliper require different grade of grease. You can either go for AP3, which is a normal grease, or copper based grease.
Just apply some little amount of grease inside the hole. This is for smooth function as well as to avoid the deposition inside the caliper. Generally, this point gets stuck up because of the deposition. This is having rubber, so this will not, here there will be no issue at all. Excessive grease which you can see, just remove it. Should not come on the surface. And the caliper greasing is also done. Again, place these pads inside the caliper assembly. Sew the pin. Just tap it a little bit, then use the lock. Now the caliper is secured. Now you just place the caliper on the disc or the rotor, and then retight those caliper bolts. That's it. Now we have to refill brake fluid in the master cylinder. For that, you are going to use special tool which is called brake fluid extractor. Why we need this tool? Because if you try to bleed the braking system conventionally, then there is a high chance that the master cylinder will might get damaged because it has got two seals inside. So because of the friction and the heat, these seals might get damaged. So to avoid that, using this extractor is always advisable. This is based on pneumatic. Conventional procedure is very tedious and it takes a lot of time. This will take hardly some time, hardly some seconds. I'm going to use .4. In this process, you might lose some new brake fluid, but it's okay because we have to care that master cylinder. That is more costly than this brake fluid. Okay. Now I'm going to refill the master cylinder. Don't remove the resin from the fuel tank. This is the extractor, which is basically creating vacuum, or it is taking all the air from inside the master cylinder. Now you can see the lever is also going down. Level is also going down. As you can see, some bubbles are coming, but the brake is absolutely tight. Can use hardly few seconds I have taken to extract the fluid from the hydraulic network. That's it. I have taken hardly few seconds. So this is the procedure and this is the way to clean and to maintain your disc unit, whether it is front or rear, doesn't matter. This is applicable to all the vehicles which are having hydraulic braking system. Even if it is a car, then also even if it is a drum, rear drum, then also you can use this tool and you can use or follow the same procedure for the rear and front disc unit. Thanks for watching and stay connected for some